Hello? Hello? Hello, students. Are you listening? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's what there was no response. Till now, whatever I have told you, did you listen? Yes? It was audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, coming to the various theories that were actually proposed regarding the origin of life. Now, in those days, actually, early Greeks, they believed that the units of light were called as the spores. Okay, so the various theories that were proposed regarding the origin of life was first the Greeks they came into existence. You all know. So the Greeks actually behind believe that the units of life actually are nothing but the spores. So you all know spores. Spores are actually nothing but they come from the plants. So these spores actually were brought to different planets, including the Earth. Now this theory actually is called as panspermia and is still favored by many astronomers. So this study actually, or you can say this theory is called as the panspermia. So according to this panspermia, according to this theory, now the Greeks believed that the units of life actually are called as nothing but the unit are called as nothing but the spores. Now this theory actually is called as nothing but the panspermia. So according to this panspermia, sorry for the disturbance. Okay, according to this panspermia, the units of life actually are nothing but the spores. Now, for a long time, actually, it was believed that the life could originate from the decaying as well as the rotting matter like straw, mud, etc. Then later on, the theory of spontaneous generation came, and according to this spontaneous generation, it was disapproved. Actually, this was being postulated by Louis Pasteur, and he actually it was disapproved by Louis Pasteur by his fan neck flask experiment. So that is how actually the various theories have come up. So first the Greeks were the what do you say the scientists who believed that the units of life are nothing but the spores. Now this theory they call it as nothing but the panspermia. So according to panspermia, the spores actually are brought to different planets, okay, including the Earth. Now this theory actually was believed till later period by many astronomers. Later on, what happened for a long time it was believed, but later on, what happened? The other scientists came up and they started believing that actually the life originated from decaying as well as the rotting mud and all those things. And this theory they called it as nothing but the theory of spontaneous generation. But this the theory of spontaneous generation was also actually disapproved by Louis Pasteur, actually, who tried to explain the origin of life by his experiment. So now we will see what actually the Louis Pasteur has suggested and what actually he did in his experiment and what the assumptions made by him. Now coming to the Louis Pasteur experiment, now what he did is he actually demonstrated that life comes only from pre-existing life. According to Louis Pasteur, life actually has existed or it has come from the pre-existing life. Now he showed actually his experiment is famously called as nothing but the neck experiment. That is Swan neck flask experiment. His experiment actually was called as Swan flask neck experiment because he performed an experiment in the flask and actually this particular flask resembled the neck of a swan. You know, swan actually, which are nothing but deck-like structures which are present in the what do you say the water, and these swans actually the neck of this swan resembles the what do you say the flask. So what Louis Pasteur actually has taken in his experiment is he has used a flask. That flask resembled the neck of a swan. That is why he called that particular experiment as swan neck experiment. Okay. Now, so what he demonstrated is actually the life originated from the pre-existing life. That means the life actually originated, no doubt, but already some forms were there. Pre-existing forms were there. So from that, actually the life originated from the pre-existing life. So he showed that in the flasks that were sterilized prior to the experiment, the life did not originate from the killed yeast, but at a same time, if a similar flask was left open to air, new living organisms arose from the killed yeast. So what he did is when he took that flask, okay, and in that flask, what he tried to do, he tried to sterilize it. And when he tried to sterilize that, he showed that in the flask that was sterilized prior to that experiment, it did not actually, life did not originate from the killed yeast. But what he tried to do is, if a similar flask was kept open into the air, then new living organisms that is of yeast has originated. So according to his assumption, what he is trying to say is the life comes or life has originated only from the pre-existing ones. What he took two flasks. One flask he sterilized, okay, prior to the experiment, and the other flask actually he kept it open into the air. So in the flask that was sterilized prior to the experiment, life did not originate from the killed yeast. But what he tried to do is when he took another flask and kept it open in the air, okay, new living organism that is the yeast appeared from the killed yeast. So that is what he meant to say. So that means according to him, life has originated from the pre-existing form. It has originated. So there is something occurring, or there is something already existing, okay, in the universe from which actually this life has originated. So that is what his assumption. So this disapproved the theory of spontaneous generation. So the spontaneous generation, which was given by several authors. So according to the Louis Pasteur experiment, he tried to actually disapprove the theory of spontaneous generation. So that is how actually he performed, and he gave us the what do you say, the postulate. So what is the experiment that is Louis Pasteur did? He took two flasks, one flask he sterilized, okay, and the other flask, what he tried to do, he did not sterilize, he just kept it open into the air. So the flask that was sterilized prior to the experiment, in that he could not observe any the development of yeast, but in another flask that he tried to keep it open in the air, there he could observe the what do you say, the new yeast, which were actually originated from the killed one. So based on his assumption, what he tried to do is that life comes from the existing one. So this theory, what is called as nothing but the Louis Pasteur theory, and this theory tried to disapprove the theory of spontaneous generation. Okay, so this is what the Louis Pasteur says. Now, see here. So swan neck, okay, swan neck flask experiment to disapprove spontaneous generation. This is how he did. Now, this is actually the flask that he took. Okay, that is the non-sterilized liquid poured into the flask, and the neck of the flask drawn into the flame, and the liquid was sterilized by heating. Okay, and the liquid cooled slowly for a longer time, and the liquid maintains sterility. So that is how actually he tried to perform an experiment, and he tried to prove his experiment, and he tried to actually disapprove the theory of spontaneous generation. So according to the various scientists, actually the Louis Pasteur experiment to some extent was approved. Okay, and it was later on he tried to disapprove this experiment. So that is called as nothing but the spine neck flask experiment. Now, after Louis Pasteur experiment, another experiment came that was actually given by Oparin-Haldane theory regarding the origin of life. So Oparin-Haldane theory is also very, very important. Now, according to this Oparin-Haldane theory, actually Oparin belonged to Russia and Haldane belonged to England. So both of them tried to propose that the first forms of life originated from the pre-existing non-living organic molecules like RNA, protein, etc. Okay. Now, what Louis Pasteur has suggested that the life originated from the pre-existing is correct, but he did not mention whether it has originated from the non-living forms or whether it has originated from the living form. He has said that life actually originates from the pre-existing forms. To some extent, it was okay, but later on, Haldane as well as Oparin, both of them actually tried to again modify that theory, and he tried to prove they tried to prove that theory, and they proposed that the life originated from the life originated from the living organic molecules. Sorry, non-living organic molecules. So what is that non-living organic molecules? RNA, protein, etc. Then later on, formation of life was again preceded by chemical evolution, that is formation of diverse organic molecules from inorganic constituents. Later on, in 1953, Miller was another scientist who was an American scientist. He demonstrated the same experiment in a laboratory on a larger scale. So that is how actually the theories of origin of life came into existence. Okay. So first, Swan experiment that was given by Louis Pasteur. According to him, life originated from the pre-existing forms. Later on, Oparin and Handel, Oparin belonging to Russia and Handel belonging to England, both of them tried to actually conduct an experiment, and they proposed that the life actually has originated from the non-living organic molecules, that is RNA as well as protein. Okay, and this formation of life again was preceded by chemical evolution, means from the inorganic forms, organic forms developed. So like this, they started actually proposing the various theories. Later on, another scientist by name Miller, who was an American scientist, he demonstrated the same, Oparin-Haldane theory on a larger scale. And now we'll see what actually Miller has told. Now, later on, Miller, along with Urey is another scientist. Okay, so both of them actually tried to perform an experiment on a larger scale. They agreed with Oparin Haldane's theory. Okay, and then they tried to conduct an experiment on a larger scale, and they tried to give some of their postulates or some of their assumptions. Now we'll see. According to Miller and Urey experiment, now what they said is the conditions of the Earth in those days were high. Means what were there? High temperature was there, volcanic storms, and reducing atmosphere containing methane as well as ammonia. So according to the Urey and Miller experiment, they try to prove that the conditions of the Earth where temperature was very high, the volcanic storms were there, and the atmosphere was reduced, containing methane as well as the ammonia gas. So in 1953, what they did is Miller, an American scientist, created similar conditions on a laboratory scale. Means basing on the universal, the parameter, that is the characteristics, that is the regarding the temperature, regarding the storms and the atmosphere and all those things. What they tried to do is Miller tried to create the same atmospheric conditions in a laboratory, and he tried to prove. So what he did when he performed an experiment, these were the conditions of the earth he was saying. What was that? The temperature was very high, there were volcanic storms, and the atmosphere was very much reduced, containing the methane gas as well as the ammonia gas. So Miller, what he tried to do, he tried to create those conditions in the laboratory. So to simulate these conditions of the primitive Earth, he created electric discharge in a closed flask, raising the temperature to 800 degrees centigrade. And he used what? Methane, hydrogen, ammonia, and water vapor inside the flask. And then he observed the formation of the amino acids. See, this is what is called the diagrammatic representation of the Miller experiment. So, how the temperature was, how the atmosphere was based on the conditions that were prevailing during that particular period in the atmosphere. He tried to create the same atmospheric conditions, okay, in an laboratory using the closed flask. So he created what? Tried to create the electric discharge in a closed flask. With this electric discharge, he tried to raise the temperature to 100 degrees centigrade, use various gases like methane, hydrogen, ammonia, and water vapor inside the flask. Okay, and he tried to observe. So when he tried to raise this temperature and when he tried to use this, he could observe the formation of the amino acids. That is what actually he tried to say to the universe. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the Miller's experiment. So now coming to the acceptance. So what he tried to do is now acceptance of chemical evolution. So actually, based on the earlier scientist postulates, he did the experiment and he tried to prove that actually the chemical evolution was there, means evolution of chemicals, how it has existed. So the acceptance of chemical evolution theory came into existence. So Miller had to give the evidences. So to give the evidences, what he tried to do, he tried to actually perform an experiment and he could observe the formation of the amino acids, and based on it, he tried to actually give or evidence proof to the society. So what he did is, now when Miller observed the synthesis, so Miller observed the synthesis of amino acids from simple inorganic chemicals in his experiment. So he did this by recreating the conditions that were believed to exist on the primitive earth in the laboratory. Then in the similar experiments, formation of sugars, nitrogen bases, pigment, as well as the other components were also done. Then analysis of meteoritic content showed the presence of similar what do you say, gases and all those things in the space. So that is how Miller tried to prove or give evidences to the society. So when he tried to give the evidence to society, the other scientists also agreed or accepted his views, and they try to perform an experiment. They try to, do the similar experiment, and they try to actually form the sugars, nitrogen gases, and all those things by prevailing or by giving the same conditions what Miller has given. So that is how several evidences actually were shown or given by various scientists actually to give acceptance of chemical evolution, means to prove that how actually the chemicals have evolved. So that is what is called nothing but the acceptance of chemical evolution theory. Are you understanding? So these are the various evidences that were given by the various scientists, okay, and it was accepted by the scientists as well as the society. So they later on several other scientists actually they came up and they started giving them what do you say views regarding the origin of life. Okay, are you able to understand? Okay, hello students. So this is how actually the life originated on the earth. So first, how the life originated on the earth. First, earth or the universe originated. That is, the earth has originated, and later on, after earth has originated, the life actually, the life form has originated. So first, the life has been created, you can say, from the non-living things, not directly from the living things, but from the non-living things have came into existence. Later on, the life or the living organisms have actually came into being. So that is how we have to accept, and this is actually proved by various scientists by performing the various experiments. Now we will see what actually the various other theories have been put forward by various scientists. Now coming to the theory of origin of species by natural selection. Now till now, uh, 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 till till now we have talked about the non-living things. Now coming to the living things, that is the theory of origin of species by natural selection, how actually the living organisms have originated. So the observations made during the sea voyage in a sail ship, okay, called HMS Beagle, round the world, Charles Darwin actually concluded that existing life forms they share similarities to varying degrees not only among themselves but also the life forms that million years of ago. So actually now Darwin the theory has come forward. Now Darwin actually, when he was given across the oceans, when he was actually sailing across the sea and all those things during his sea voyage, and when he was first visiting different places, he actually, you all know, actually he concentrated on the theory of origin of species. He tried to actually move throughout the world, and he started actually giving his conclusions regarding the life forms. So what he said is actually the life forms or the existing life forms, they share similarities. They share the same similarities to varying degrees, not only among themselves, but also the life form that existed million years ago. So that means what, according to his view, the life forms which are now presently existing, okay, they are similar to the, or they show similarities in a number of forms to the actually the life forms that existed over a million years ago. So that was his actually conclusion, and many such forms actually did not don't exist anymore now, because you all know as evolution took place and all those things, they got extinct. Only very few are now existing. So many of such life forms actually don't exist anymore due to various reasons. Actually they have been extincted, you all know, and there also have been emergence of evolution because of that, and there has been a gradual evolution of the life form. So because of that evolution of the life form, what happened is one by one the most of the life forms that existed earlier, they got extinct. But still, whatever it is, there is a certain what do you say, a primitive a lineage from which actually the life existed. So there is some similarity that is still existing. So that is what the Darwin's concept is. So he said that actually there has been a gradual evolution of life forms. All populations of organisms actually have variations in characteristics, you all know, and the individuals with various characteristics, they allow better adaptability, and therefore they outbreed others. So like this, he has, based on his views, based on his concept and all those things, he has given his various theory of natural selection, theory of existence for life, theory of survival of the fittest, and all those things he has given. But among those various theories, the survival of the fittest actually comes to, because what he says is the fitness according to Darwin refers ultimately to the ability, okay, of the organism. So therefore only the fittest organisms they could survive and they produce more progeny than the others, because as evolution took place, what happened, there was gradual change. Okay, some of the forms, life forms actually, which never had that capacity to exist more, they became extinct. Only the ones organisms which could survive, which could adapt, only they could actually survive and they could produce the progeny. So the survival of the fittest theory, according to Darwin, holds the best. So what he said is the only the fittest organisms actually survived and actually they produce more progeny. So therefore they have better survival. Therefore these have better survival capacities and hence they are selected by nature. And he called it as nothing but a natural selection. He called it as natural selection. So later on, another scientist by name Wallace, who was also a natural scientist. So he was a naturalist who worked in Malay archipelago and had also come to similar conclusions. And like that, the geological history of Earth is closely related to the biological history of the Earth. So that is how the scientists started thinking that whatever the geological history of Earth, that is very much closely related to the biological history of the Earth. So that is how actually the various theories have been put forward by various scientists have come into being. So that is how the life existed. First, the life originated. Okay. So according to Big Bang theory, now Big Bang theory is what? Big Bang theory. According to the Big Bang theory, the first life originated means life did not originate directly. First, the Earth has originated, universe has originated. That is, the non-living things have originated, and from the non-living things, the life forms have originated. The life forms have originated. So Big Bang theory, according to Big Bang theory concept, actually how the non-living things, how actually the matter became condensed, how the universe got exploded, how the temperature actually being raised, and there was a reduction in the atmosphere and all those things, how it has been created. So like that, one by one, one by one. So once the Earth has been created, then the life forms have been created. So various theories have been put forward by various scientists. We have seen now the Louis Pasteur theory. Before the Louis Pasteur theory, actually, we talked about the panspermia theory. According to panspermia theory, sports, what do you say? The sports actually have been they are being distributed or they have come from various sources. Then later on, the theory of spontaneous generation was proposed, and this theory of spontaneous generation was being actually disapproved by Miller's experiment, because according to Miller's experiment, he said that actually life originated from the pre-existing form. He tried to prove it. Then later on, one by one, after that Urey's experiment, Urey and Miller, both of them together actually have performed, and they tried to prove to the society, and whatever their conclusions were, it was being accepted by various scientists. Several scientists actually also have done similar experiments, and they try to prove that, stating that the life originated from the pre-existing form. So that is how one by one, several theories actually have been accepted. Then that came the theory of natural selection, which was proposed by, you all know, Charles Darwin. So Charles Darwin, when he was actually going across the sea on a voyage to the sea, and you all know actually he was a natural what do you say scientist, I mean naturalist. So he, when he tried to move from one place to another place, he tried to come across various life forms, and he said that actually there were a lot of similarities between the existing life forms and the life forms which existed million years ago. So like that, he has given the theory, and he said that actually if evolution has to take place, there was a gradual evolution. There has been a gradual evolution of these life forms, and in the during this evolution, what happened is many life forms which could not survive or which could not get adapted to the existing conditions, they became extinct, and only the ones which could survive, which could actually get adapted, they survived and they tried to actually produce the progeny. So that theory, he called it as nothing but the theory, and that was possible only because of the natural selection. It is only a natural phenomena according to him. So he gave that particular concept as the natural selection, or the theory of natural selection. So that is how actually he tried to prove, or he tried to give this theory. Then afterwards, Alfred Wallace has come. He was also a naturalist. He worked also on Malay archipelago, and he also came to similar conclusions, stating, and according to both of them, what they concluded is geological history of Earth is very closely related to biological history of Earth. Geological means that is not living form, is and the living form. So that is how. So this is the actually ancestral how they have existed. Many of them actually they have become what do you say the extinct, but now the ones which are extinct, I mean living now are these. So these are the living forms. Okay. Okay. Now next is what are the evidences for evolution. Now both these scientists actually are saying okay life has existed, and they have proposed as the theory of natural selection and all those things, and evolution has taken place. So what are actually the evidences? We need to prove it. So unless and until there are evidences, the society will not accept it. So what are the various evidences, okay, of this for evolution? So one by, I mean, the scientists actually try to prove through fossil study, okay, through paleontological studies, nothing but the fossil study. Then they have given us through various, the theories that they have proposed. Now we'll see one by one. Now the evidences that have been proved through fossil study, evidences that have been proved through embryological study, and then the evidences that have been proved by biochemical studies. Like the different actually aspects have been taken by different scientists, and it has been proved by various scientists. Now we will see what are the various evidences, okay, for evolution, and that have been put forward by various scientists and in different subjects. Okay. Now coming to the paleontological evidences. Now paleontological evidences, paleontology is nothing but study of fossils. So here, now what are the paleontological evidences? So you all know fossils are the remains of the hard parts of the life forms that are actually found in the rocks. So different aged rock sediments actually they contain the fossils of different life forms who probably died during the formation of the what do you say the earth, or you can say during the formation of the sediment. So these fossils are nothing but they are the dead forms. Okay, they are the aged rock sediments. Actually, they so if you go near the rocks and if you try to observe it, you could see the number of fossils you could see. These fossil forms actually of different life forms they may be, and they are actually found in the sediments, sedimental rocks, or you can say the sediments. So they represent extinct organisms. For example, if you see dinosaurs, now dinosaurs actually as such they have not observed in a living form. They have observed only as an extinct organism. So these dinosaurs actually they could observe only through the fossil remains, not in the living form. So that is how they say that actually these fossil remains represent the dinosaurs represent the extinct organism. Then a study of different sedimentary layers in which was fossils were present indicates the geological period actually in which they existed. So the paleontological study or the fossil study showed that the life forms varied over time, and they contain the life forms are restricted to certain geological span. So hence, new forms of life actually are believed to have originated at different times in the history of the earth. And all these actually are called as nothing but the paleontological evidences. Means the existence of the dinosaurs actually they have proved only through fossil study. So that is why they said they are saying that actually the study showed that life forms varied over different geological periods, because see life has existed over 500 billion years ago they are saying. So in those days how actually life one by one, because there is a gradual evolution that took place. So in those days, how actually the evolution one by one, actually how these life forms existed during those particular periods, and how the forms were there, new life forms were there. So one by one, from these new life forms existed from the old life forms, we all know. So thus, it is only a belief that the new forms of life actually are believed to have originated at different times, and they have originated from the pre-existing ones. Okay, so this is all called as nothing but the paleontological evidences. Okay. Now, next evidence is now best example for paleontological evidence is nothing but dinosaurs. Now, comparative anatomy and morphological evidence. Now, through the study of morphology as well as the anatomy, what are these evidences? What actually the scientists have to say? We will see now. Okay, so comparative anatomy and morphology show similarities and differences among the organisms of today and those which existed million years ago. Now, based on this, you have two different types of evolution. We'll see what is divergent evolution and what is convergent evolution. Now, coming to divergent evolution, now different animals, mammals, like you have bats are there, whales, cheetah, and humans, they share similarities in their pattern of bones of four limbs. Okay, so they have similarity. If you see their four limbs, if you observe their four limbs, they show a number of similarities. Like all these belong to mammals. Like bats, you have whales, you have cheetah, you have as well as humans. So these four limbs, they perform different functions. They perform different functions, but they show similarity. But they show the similar anatomical structure. Okay, like they have humerus, ulna, radius, okay, carpus, metacarpus, phalanges. So thus it can be said that the same structure developed along different directions, okay, due to adaptation to different conditions or different needs. So this direction of evolution is called as nothing but divergent evolution. It is called as divergent evolution. Okay, and these structures, they are called as homologous structures. They are called as what? Homologous. Homologous means similar structure. Means when they show similarity in the structure, then it is called as the homologous homology. So homology is nothing but similarity in the structure. Though they are similar in their structure, but their function is different. They show the different functions. Like say for example, you have bats, whales. See these four limbs for bats, it may be helping what do you say, flying. But humans, it may be helpful for walking purpose, like that. So in whales, it may be for swimming. So like this, you have got functions are different, but structure is the same. Okay. So such a phenomena, you call it as homology, and the direction of evolution is called divergent evolution. Means according to the needs. Okay. Now these structures might have got adapted. Okay, to perform various functions. So that is what the scientists may have to tell. Okay. So homology indicates what? Common ancestry. So what does it indicate? That means these whales, cheetah, and all those things, actually they have got a common ancestry. Means they have originated from a ancestor which is common to all of them. Means the ancestor is common to bats, whales, cheetah, as well as the humans. Means that means they all have originated, or mammals have originated from a common ancestor. That is what it is indicating. So other examples of homologous organs are vertebrate hearts as well as the brains. Okay. Then you have, even if you see the plants like thorn of bougainvillea, tendrils of cucurbita, they also represent homologous. Now see here. Okay, some skeletal structures. That's why I have talked about these. No. Okay, the four limbs. Like see, if you see bat, bird. Okay, like this. Okay, they are helpful for flying. Now if you see here dolphin and seal, it is used for swimming. And okay, if you see dog and sheep, they are used for running. Then if you see here humans, okay, and if you see this, actually they are used for grasping. So like this, I mean the structure is the same, okay, anatomy is the same, but their function is different. So that is why it is called as homology. Okay. Now next is what? Now, if you see the just now I have talked about the even the homologous organs related with the plants, like homologous organs in the plants. Okay. Now we'll see what is convergent evolution now. Now, convergent evolution actually it indicates analogy. Now, what do you mean analogy? Homologous is what? Similarity in structure, but different in function. Analogous is what? Analogous structures actually are a result of convergent evolution. They are a result of convergent evolution, but here they actually here you have function is the same, but there is difference in the structure. There is difference in the structure. Say for example, wings of butterfly and of birds both appear similar. Wings of butterfly and birds both appear similar. Anatomically, they do not have similar structure, though they perform similar function. Though they perform similar function. So that means anatomically similar structure, they don't have similar structure, but they perform similar function. So hence analogous or structures are a result of convergent evolution. For example, eyes of different organisms, okay, like that of octopus of mammals, okay, then flippers of penguins and dolphins you have. Then sweet potato, root modification, and potato, stem modification for storage of food. So what does it indicate? Convergent evolution. Convergent evolution is because of what? Analogous structures. Analogous structures actually are what? They do not have similar structure, but they perform same function. Anatomically, they are not same, but they perform similar function. Like say for example, wings of butterfly and of birds. Both of them actually are what they are using, means helpful for flying. Okay, butterfly also fly, birds also will fly, no doubt. But their actually anatomy is not similar, means they don't have a similar structure, but their function is the same. So like that, you have different examples are also there. Okay, like flippers of penguins are there, octopus of mammals, sweet potato, and all those things. See here, like you have shark, fish. Okay, fin you have. Then you have penguin. Now this is helpful. Then you have actually penguins have got the bird. Then next you have dolphin, mammal, flipper. So all these actually it is almost similarity is there. I mean function, but not in the structure. Structure is totally different, but they are helpful in the same function. The next is what you have biochemical evidence. Now, till now we have seen paleontological evidences, that is the fossil evidence. Example is dinosaurs. Then we have seen the morphological as well as the what do you say, the anatomical evidences. Now we are going to see the biochemical evidence. Now, biochemical evidences is similarities in the protein and the genes performing a specific function among different organisms. It gives clues regarding the common ancestry. Now, if you see biochemical evidences, means you have to perform an experiment, you have to isolate the genes, you have to isolate the proteins from different organisms, perform an experiment, and then try to prove that the proteins as well as the genes, okay, are similar in this organism. So that is how actually, I mean, it will show you and it will give you a proof for the biochemical evidences. So similarities in proteins and genes. So several authors, what they try to do, they try to isolate the proteins, they try to isolate the genes from different organisms, and they performed an experiment, and they actually try to prove that these proteins as well as these genes perform a specific function among the different organisms. So that is why, and all these actually again come to the same conclusion, stating that these particular organisms actually have come from the common ancestry, or they have got a common ancestry. Okay, so that is what the biochemical evidences say. The next, coming to embryological evidences. Now, embryological evidences has to do something with the development. Now, coming to the Ernest Haeckel. Ernest Haeckel, you all know, actually he is a embryologist. What he tried to do is, and what he said, Ernest Haeckel, you all know, ontogeny repeats phylogeny, his famous theory. So he proposed this evidence as evolution based on observation of certain common features, means certain embryonic stages of all vertebrates that are absent in the adult. So what he tried to do is, he tried to actually prove it. He first tried to see the various embryological, I mean, he did the embryological study, and he tried to actually observe all the what do you say, the common features that are I mean seen during the embryonic stages of almost all the vertebrates. So actually embryonic stages, if you observe these stages as they are actually evolving, as they are developing, though those stages you will not observe it in the adult. So only during these embryonic stages, different stages that you see, they will be present. So what he tried to do, he tried to actually observe each and every particular embryonic state, and he tried to give some conclusion. Now what he did is, all what he told is, all vertebrate embryos, including human embryo, develop from a row of vestigial gill slits just behind the head. What he said is, all the vertebrate embryonic stages, they try to actually develop from a vestigial. Vestigial means it is of no use, like, okay, though they are present. So they are vestigial gill slits which are present behind the gills, which are present behind the head. So it is seen that it is a functional organ only in the fish. Okay, it is there only in the fish, but it is not seen in either in the what do you say, humans or other mammals and all those things. It is seen only in the fish. So gills are not found in any other adult vertebrate. The gills are not found in other. So that means we can say that actually evolution, as we are saying, so that is, there is common ancestry. So if you see the mammals, now in the mammals, what are those? First, what we talk about? We talk about amphibians, we talk about fishes. Okay, amphibians, fishes. Then like that we talk about different like mammals. Okay, we talk about reptiles like this. So, but by means that means there is certain common ancestry. I mean, which is following. So, according to his view, when he studied the different embryological stages, what he tried to prove is that the vertebrate embryos, okay, including even the human embryo, it develops from the vestigial gill slit, which is just present behind the head region. So that like that. So this is a common feature that he has observed in almost all the embryos, including the human. So he has given us the conclusion setting, and that gill is actually retained only in the fish, but it is not observed in any other adult mammal. So that is what his conclusion. So the embryological evidence was disregarded, and it was disapproved later on by Carl Ernst von Baer on the basis of careful study, okay, performed by him. So he noted that the similarities in embryos never pass through the adult stages of other animals. Okay, though he gave, but his theory was neglected. It was disapproved. Disapproved. Why? Because whatever he has said, okay, he might have observed the common feature that is seen in almost all during the embryonic stages, but that is not written in the adult. Only he could observe only in the fish, but it is not observed. So this theory actually was disagreed and disapproved by the Carl Ernest Bonpland. So what he said is he noted the similarity only in the embryos, but he did not note that similarity in the adult stage. So that is why it was, what do you say, neglected. So then later on, other scientists came up. Now we will see what they have said. So evolution by natural selection. Now, according to them, what they are saying is, now when you talk about the evolution by natural selection, means the evolution process. The evolution actually is nothing but a change. Okay, and this change actually it is a gradual change and it occurs only by the natural selection phenomena. So a popular example actually, you all know the theory of natural selection is given by Charles Darwin. Okay, so a popular example is the change in frequency of the moth population in England in 1850. So he tried to prove this. So example of this evolution by natural selection is nothing but it is actually they have given with reference to the moth population. Okay, moth is nothing but the butterflies. So this moth population in England, when he observed, they say that actually the evolution in this particular moth population occurred by natural phenomena, that is by natural selection. Later on, both in before industrialization, okay, before industrialization, set in more white-winged moths were observed on trees than dark-winged, okay, or melanized. Then after industrialization, the proportion was reversed as there were more dark-winged moths in the area. So what, according to their conclusion, what they said is actually there is a chain. Okay, they have observed a lot of what do you say? Moths, and these moths actually they said that the evolution of these moths occurred because of the natural phenomena, and before industrialization, means before the industries were developed, they could observe more number of white-winged moths or white-winged insects when compared to dark-winged. But when once the industrialization means a lot of industries have been set up after 1920, the proportion of the white-winged actually reduced and the dark-winged actually moths they could observe. So that was actually the concept that was given by the scientists. Okay. Now this is one of the views. Then evolution by anthropogenic action. This is man-made. Okay, we will see. So what are the views? Anthropogenic means here anthropogeny is nothing but the man-made sources or the man-made views according to the different concept which was given by man. Okay. So the evolution according to the anthropogenic action which was actually given or concluded by or made by man, we will see one by one. Okay. Now coming to this anthropogeny or evolution by anthropogenic study, here excess use of herbicides, pesticides, etc., has resulted in selection of the resistant varieties in the much lesser time, in a much lesser time scale. So this has also been observed for microbes against which we use. Hence, resistance in organisms as well as the cells are now appearing on a time scale. So these are the examples of evolution by anthropogenic action. So evolution, what they say is, it is a stochastic process. This is because it is based on random and chance events in nature and chance mutation in the organism. Okay, so this is what the concept given by. So evolution by anthropogenic action, that is according to the man-made. Okay, now just now we have talked about before industrialization, after industrialization, what has happened regarding the moth population we have seen. So according to the man's view, what they are saying is this: they are saying, you see, when we are using, because the population, when once the population has increased, what happened? There was more demand for agriculture, more demand for food, more demand for everything. So the what happened? The industries have come up, number of industries have come up because with more number of population, explosion of population, industries had to be set up. Okay, and then agriculture also had to be made more. So what they started using pesticide, they started using different herbicides for the growth. So like this, what happened? There was excess use of herbicides, excess use of pesticides for there, and because of these herbicides, pesticides, it resulted in selection of the resistant varieties. So means the varieties or the organisms started developing, and they started becoming resistant, okay, to these, and hence what happened by chance the resistant varieties actually have come up more when compared to the what do you say, the natural varieties, you can say. So that is what their observation is. So not only with reference to the plants, with reference to the microbes, with reference to a number of organisms. Okay, so hence resistance in the organisms actually are now appearing in a time scale. So over a period of time, when once they got accustomed to this way of what do you say, the atmosphere and all those things, because of the use of number of industries, number of pesticides, and number of and all those things, the life forms also become existent. Means the plant varieties also became, not only plant varieties, even the both flora and fauna, we can say, actually became resistant to this. So this actually all these are nothing but examples of the anthropogenic what do you say, the action, we can say, or examples of anthropogenic action. So these are the examples of evolution of anthropogeny. So evolution, what we said, is called as, according to them, it is a stochastic process or a stochastic phenomena which occurs because it is based on random and chance events in nature. So you all know, actually, in nature, whatever the life forms that are existing, it is because of random and chance, because of probability events in nature, and also the chance mutation in the organism. So whatever is occurring, whatever the life forms that are being seeing now, or the resistant forms we are observing, or the mutant forms that we are observing, it is nothing but because of the mutation. It is nothing but because of the chance, because of the random chance. So that is what actually the scientists are observing and they are concluding. Okay. Now we will see next is what we will see now, what is adaptive radiation. So these are all, now just now I have told you the various views or the evidences, okay, that have been proved by various scientists regarding the evolution. So some of the scientists actually given their conclusion based on their embryological studies, some of them based on biochemical studies, some of them on the anatomical studies, some of them on the morphological study. So like that, they have put forward their views, and they try to actually what do you say, the life originated on the earth. So that is actually is the concept. Okay. Now coming to Darwin's finches. Hello, Ma, are you able to understand? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Yes. Hello. Okay. Now coming to okay. Now coming to Darwin's finches. Now, what Darwin's finches? So actually, Darwin's finches actually is an example of adaptive radiation. Now you all know Darwin's finches. Finches are nothing but the birds. Okay. So Charles Darwin, you all know, he was a famous natural, what do you say, naturalist, you can say, or a natural scientist, we can say. Okay. So when he was going through Archipelago Island and all those things, he could observe certain birds. Okay. And when he observed certain birds, these birds actually have got different types of beaks, and these different types of beaks actually were performing different role. Though they, every bird he could observe the beak, but they are actually, these beaks are used for various purposes. So he got an idea about why actually, how though the beaks are similar, everybody is having the beak, and why they are using for this, how actually they have adapted their beaks, okay, for different purposes. So the idea, actually, he got an idea, and based on this, actually, he could gave the idea of natural selection. So that is how actually, just seeing the what do you say, or when he was going through the archipelago island and all those things, when he was crossing that, when he could observe these birds, then he got an idea about actually the what is called as natural selection. Now we'll see how he observed, okay, what were his conclusions, what he observed, and all those things. Okay. So now Darwin's finches, or Darwin's theory, actually is based on the observation of certain birds in the Galapagos Islands. Okay. So the small black birds, actually these finches are nothing but they are the small black birds. Okay, observed, and called them as the Darwin's finches. Okay. So what are Darwin's finches? Now Darwin's finches, whatever the Darwin theory of natural selection actually is given by Darwin, it is based on the observations of certain birds. Okay, in the Galapagos Islands. Now Galapagos Islands actually is present in archipelago. Now when he was passing through this archipelago or the Galapagos Islands, he observed certain birds. Those birds he named it as the finches, okay, as the finches. So they are very small black birds. very small blackbirds. Okay, and he called them as the finches. So that is after Darwin. They were called actually after Darwin. They were called as the Darwin's finches. So he observed that there were many varieties of the finches or many varieties of the birds that are present in this island, same island. He could observe. So all these varieties he came across, okay, had evolved on the island itself. All of them actually are present on the same island, okay, and but there are many varieties. So they were originally adapted with seed-eating features. Okay, they were adapted with the seed. It means all were actually having the. You all know most of the birds they eat seed, so they were actually adapted with the seed-eating features. From these, many other forms evolved with altered beaks depending on their food habit. Now, this enabled them to become insectivorous and then vegetarian features. Okay. Now, initially they were all seed eating, but as the evolution took place, okay, from these many other forms actually they evolved with altered beaks. I mean, there was actually a different form or in that structure. Okay. So these other forms evolved with altered beaks, and when the altered beaks were there, depending on their food habit, okay, depending on their food habit. So this actually made them or enabled them to become insectivorous, means to eat. I mean, it helped them to capture the insects, to eat the insects. Some of them became the vegetarian finches like that. Okay, so like this, the beaks, because of the changes in the beaks, okay, the evolution took place. That was actually his concept. So this process of evolution of different species in a geographical area, okay, starting from a point and then radiating to the other areas, he called it as nothing but adaptive radiation. He called it as the adaptive radiation. Okay, so variety of beaks of finches that Darwin found actually in the Galapagos Islands. So though the beaks are there, everybody is having, but some birds use it for eating the fruit. Some birds for picking the seeds. Some birds use it for breaking the nuts. Some birds use it for building the nest. So like this, that was his actually concept. So what he could observe that there was an evolution, okay, that he could observe, and this has evolved. Okay, so this enabled them, or the evolution or what do you say, the evolution of the beaks in these different forms actually enabled them to, go about with the different forms. So some of them became insectivorous, some of them actually became the vegetarian birds, like that. Some of like this. The finches actually have evolved, or you can say the beaks, change in the beaks you could observe. So based on this concept, actually he has given the concept of adaptive radiation. Okay. The next is what Australian marsupial. Now in Australia, it was seen that a number of marsupials actually had evolved from an ancestral stock. So these marsupials actually were all different from each other. Number of marsupials, they are all different from each other. So when more than one adaptive radiation appears to have occurred in an isolated geographical area, okay, different habitat, then it can be called as convergent evolution. It can be called as convergent evolution. Means when more than one adaptive radiation appears, appears to have occurred in any isolated geographical area, then you can call it as a convergent evolution. So like this, Darwin gave the concept of not only the adaptive radiation, but also he has shown what is the convergent evolution and what is divergent evolution. Okay. Now, placental mammals in Australia actually were also seen to exhibit adaptive. Okay, what do you say? They were seen to, okay, exhibit adaptive radiation, and they seem to have evolved from marsupial into various placental mammals. So the placental mammals actually they have shown similarities to their ancestral marsupial, that is from placental wolf and Tasmanian wolf marsupial. So that is what, okay, the concept was. Okay. Now next, coming to biological evolution. Now we will see what are the biological evolution. Now coming to, with reference to biological evolution, now natural selection, you all know natural selection actually is the essence of Darwinian theory about evolution. Natural selection theory is nothing but given by Darwinian theory. So the rate of appearance of new forms is related to the life cycle or the lifespan. So how actually the evolution took place, you all know biological evolution is nothing but the evolution of life forms. And the rate of appearance of these new forms, actually, it all depends, or it is related to the life cycle of the what do you say, the life form. So for the variations to get selected and evolve, there has been to be a genetic basis. So organisms with favorable variations are better adapted to survive in an environment, and the variations result from in adaptability, and they have a genetic basis and are therefore inherited. So fitness is the ability to adapt to changing environment and thus get selected by the nature. So the key concepts of Darwinism are nothing but natural selection and the theory of common descent. So that is what just now already I have told you. Actually, you all know, because the evolution took place and it took place gradually. So when once evolution took place, there was lot of changes from the, in different forms. So the earlier forms, they're totally different to the new forms. But they said that actually the new forms originated from the existing forms. They originated from the existing forms. So the life forms, as the life forms actually they originated as evolution took place. Okay, with the took place, definitely there will be a change in the environment. So with the change in the environment, what happened? The existing forms which were there during that particular period, they had to get adapted to that climatic condition. So the one which could survive to that particular climatic condition, they could survive. So they could survive and they could adapt. The others, they became extinct. So that is how actually the concept of natural selection and all became. So the survival of the fittest by the nature, actually in the phase of changing, means based on the environment change or changing environment, the organisms also had to get adapted to that changed environment, and they had to grow further. So the theory of common descent means organisms have descended from the common ancestors. Okay. So that is how the different theories have been put forward. Now we will see how actually the Lamarck, after Darwinism, Lamarck came into existence. So these were the concepts that were given by Darwin. Now we will see what actually Lamarck has to say. Now according to Lamarck, now he was a French naturalist. Lamarck proposed the evolution of life forms occurs due to disuse and disuse of organs. According to his concept, what did he say? That the life forms existed or it has evolved due to disuse and use and disuse of organs. That means his theory was also called as theory of inheritance of acquired characters. So he explained this theory using giraffes. So you all know giraffe is an animal. So this theory using giraffe, he claimed that the giraffes formed long necks, okay, in an attempt to what? To forage the leaves on tall trees. So because you all know actually the trees may be tall, they may be short, and all those things. So what he tried to prove here is the giraffes actually they had tall. So the giraffe actually formed long necks to actually what? To take or to catch the what do you say, the tall trees, means to eat the leaves of the tall trees. So that was his concept. So according to him, what he claimed is the giraffes actually formed long necks, okay, during this evolution in an attempt to forage the leaves means to catch the leaves on the tall trees. Therefore, this character actually was acquired based on a need to adapt and survive. So they had actually based on its need to adapt and survive. So this character, that is the of long neck. Okay. So that means the long neck actually has been formed in a giraffe. Okay. Okay. Because it was needy for them to catch that what do you say, the tall trees. They had to actually adapt and survive. For that, in the during the evolution process, what happened? They got adapted and they try to form the long neck. So that means the long neck actually has been formed in the giraffe. Okay, because there was a need to adapt and survive to catch that long leaf. So that was its concept. So this acquired character was passed to the succeeding generation. So giraffes therefore came to develop long necks slowly over the course of many years. So that is what is called as the Lamarck theory of evolution. So the theory of inheritance of acquired characters, because what he said is evolution of life forms occurs due to use and disuse of the organs. Okay, so that is what actually he gave the concept. Now we will see what is the mechanism of evolution. What is the mechanism of evolution? Now coming to the mechanism of evolution, Hugo de Vries worked on evening primrose. Okay, he worked on evening primrose, or he gave the idea of mutation. So de Vries actually, Hugo de Vries gave the idea of the mutation. Now we will see what is mutation, how actually the mechanism of evolution, how that takes place. Okay, he gave the concept. So what is mutation? So mutation is what? A sudden change, we say. So it is a difference that arises in a population suddenly. That is what we call. So mutation is nothing but something that has to do with the gene, that has to do something with the chromosome. So that is what we call it as the mutation. So mutation is what? Nothing but the difference arising in a population. Arising in a population. So what is gene, you know? What is chromosome, you know? Okay, so when there is a change in the gene, when there is a change in the chromosome, so you all actually, you know, chromosome or the gene actually is the genetic material that is present actually in the nucleus. So it is actually a genetic material, and the genes actually you all know they are present in the on the chromosome at a specific point which we call as the locus. Which we call as, so when there is a change, when a change occurs, either in a gene or either on the throughout the whole length of the chromosome or the either on the part of a chromosome, what happens actually? There will be a change. Okay, that change you call it as nothing but a mutation, and this mutation concept was given by Hugo de Vries. Now, Hugo de Vries' theory of mutation differs from Darwin's theory of natural selection. Now, Darwin's theory of natural selection is totally as based. He did not mention about the genes. He did not mention about the chromosomes and all those things. But Hugo de Vries mentioned about the mutation theory, which is related with nothing but the genes as well as the chromosomes. He stated that mutation causes evolution. He stated that mutation causes evolution and not the minor variations that are as suggested by Darwin. According to Darwin's concept, what it is, because there is a change in the environment, due to changing environment, evolution has to take place. Evolution has to take place. But what did Hugo de Vries said? The mutation causes evolution. It is not due to changed environment, but it is due to the mutation. It is due to mutation. So he stated that mutation causes the evolution, but not the minor changes or the minor variations that are suggested as by Darwin. And what are mutations? You all know they are sudden, random, and directionless, while Darwinian variations are very small and directional. Okay, so we can say that mutations, no doubt, mutations exist. It is because of genes. They may be sudden, they may be random, and they are directionless. They may go in any direction. But Darwinian variations are what? They are very, very small, and they go in a direction. They go in a direction. That is the difference. And evolution, according to Darwin, was is very, very slow, and it is very gradual. It is very slow and it is very gradual. Whereas, according to De Vries, Hugo De Vries, he believed that mutation caused large changes that led to speciation. Okay, it is very, very fast. Okay, and it is very fast, and it occurs very fast. It is spontaneous, and actually it leads to a lot of change. And according to actually it leads to speciation, means a number of new species actually will be formed because of the mutation. He therefore called it as nothing but saltation. Saltation means single step large mutation. He called it as single step large mutation. So one mutation, a single step mutation actually will form a number of species, will form a number of species. But according to Darwin, what is this? Evolution is very slow. Okay, it is directional and it is very, very gradual. It is like it takes several million years to there is a change. But according to the Hugo de Vries, who actually whose concept is based only on the mutations, okay, which he called it as saltation. According to him, the evolution actually occurs because of mutation, and these mutations are nothing but they are sudden, random changes that occur in a gene of an organism. And these sudden changes, these spontaneous changes, okay, which are very, very fast, lead to the what speciation means formation of a number of species. Okay, so saltation is a large and an abrupt evolutionary change that has been brought about due to a sudden large scale mutation. Okay, so this is what Hugo did. Now, next concept is what? Hardy-Weinberg principle. Now, coming to Hardy-Weinberg principle, we'll see. Now, for a given population, the frequency of occurrence of alleles of a particular gene present on a specific locus can be calculated. It can be calculated. So the frequency of occurrence, frequency means the population. So the population frequency or how actually the population is being increased to find out that. So for a given population, the frequency of occurrence of alleles of a particular gene present in a specific locus can be calculated by using Hardy-Weinberg principle. So this frequency is always fixed and it remains the same throughout the generations, they are saying. To different generations, it remains the same. So this concept actually was given by what? By whom? Hardy-Weinberg principle. And Hardy-Weinberg, it is also called Hardy-Weinberg principle. It is also called as Hardy-Weinberg law. So according to Hardy-Weinberg law, it states that the allele, what is an allele? You all know. Allele is nothing but actually a alternative form of a gene. Now, gene, actually, every gene you know has got two alleles. It has got two alleles, like A and B. Okay, a gene has got two alleles. So whenever a gene is, whenever whenever a gene actually performs a function, okay, it requires an allele, two alleles, not one allele. So a gene is governed by two alleles. So that is what. So according to the Hardy-Weinberg principle states that allele frequency in a population are stable and they are constant from generation to generation. That is what the Hardy-Weinberg principle or the Hardy-Weinberg law says. So Hardy-Weinberg law principle states that allele frequency in a population are very stable and they are constant, or it remains constant from generation to generation. It remains constant from generation to generation. So this is given by Hardy-Weinberg, and Hardy-Weinberg principle you can say Hardy-Weinberg law. Okay, that means you all know what is a gene pool. The total genes and their alleles in a population remains constant. So this is called as the genetic equilibrium. So that means what is the genetic equilibrium that Hardy-Weinberg law has given? That what he wants to say is the total genes and their alleles in a population actually remains constant. It remains constant. Gene pool is what? Nothing but the total number of genes or the total number of alleles present in a specific population. So that gene pool itself will remain constant from generation to generation. So that is what Hardy-Weinberg law wanted to state. So that is his principle. Now we will see now how actually he has, I mean, he tried to explain his principle. He tried to explain his, what do you say, law by giving what do you say, the equational form. Now we will see how actually mathematical he tried to prove it. So he has represented in a mathematical equation. So according to his mathematical equation, his what do you say, the principle we will see now. So according to him, the sum total of allelic frequency is always 1. So that means it will remain 1, it will not change. So the principle can be represented mathematically, he said, okay, by this particular formula. So what is there? P plus Q whole square. That means P square plus 2PQ plus Q square is always equal to 1. Okay. So the mathematical equation that is given by Hardy-Weinberg law is what? P plus to the power of whole square. What is P plus to the power of whole square? It is nothing but P square plus 2PQ plus Q square, which is equal to 1. So that is how actually he represented his principle in a mathematical way, and he tried to prove it. So now here in this, P and Q represent what? The individual allele frequency. P represent one allele frequency and Q represent another allele frequency. That's why I have told you, a gene is governed by two alleles. Okay, so P may be one allele and Q may be another allele. So P and Q represent what? The individual allele frequency. Therefore, P square is what? Frequency of homozygous condition represented by P. Because P square, both are same. So that is why we are calling it as frequency of homozygous condition represented by small p. Now Q square is what? Frequency of homozygous alleles. It is frequency of homozygous alleles represented by Q. It is homozygous alleles. See, this is P is homozygous alleles represented by P. Q is homozygous alleles represented by Q. And what is PQ? Frequency of heterozygous condition where both P and Q are involved. In first case, it is only P. In second case, it is Q. And in the third one, frequency. That is what, so that is what they are saying, that the mathematical equation that is given by Hardy-Weinberg law, that is P plus to the Q to the power of whole square, which says P square plus 2PQ plus Q square is always 1. Okay. So the differences in the values of P, Q and PQ indicate the extent of evolutionary change. So if there is any difference in these values, it is always done according to Hardy-Weinberg law. Okay. So if there is a change in this, then it will indicate the extent of evolutionary change. So that means it will not go with the Hardy-Weinberg law. According to Hardy-Weinberg law, what he is saying that it always remains constant generation after generation. Okay. But is it possible or not? That will be seen or that will be observed only then there is a change in the evolution. Okay, so that is what it is saying, stating that difference in the values of this P, Q, and PQ will indicate the extent of evolutionary change. So disturbance in the genetic equilibrium, that is Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, or change of frequency of the alleles in a population can then be interpreted as accumulation or change in variations that will result in evolution. That will result in evolution. So if there is a change in this, then that means it will not follow the Hardy-Weinberg law and it will indicate the evolutionary change which has come because of the evolution, or that is because of the result of evolution. Okay, so this is what. Now there are various factors actually that are known to affect the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. No doubt, Hardy-Weinberg law or Hardy-Weinberg has given us an equilibrium. He has given us his principle, and he has actually postulated his views. Okay, which was accepted during that particular period. But there are many factors actually. It is not possible that all the factors actually, that are present in nature will try to obey his principle. So what are those various factors actually which will affect the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium? Okay, now we will see one by one. So there are 5 factors they are saying that are known to affect the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. What are those? Gene migration or gene flow, genetic drift, mutation, genetic recombination, and natural selection. So gene migration is gene flow is what? When a section of the population migrates to another place, gene frequencies will change definitely in the original as well as in the new population. Definitely there will be a change. So gene will migrate. So when a section of population migrates to another place, from one place to another place, when it migrates, that definitely gene frequencies will change in the original as well as in the new population. So the new genes or alleles will be added to the new population and the same will be lost from the old population. The next is what? Okay, that gene flow. Now, gene flow is what? When gene migration occurs frequently, it is termed as a gene. Now, next is genetic drift. Now, change in gene frequency that occurs due to a random event or by chance. Now, when there is a change in the gene flow or when there is a change in the gene frequency, definitely there will be a change. Means genetic drift will be there. So it will be passed on from one generation to another generation or from one place to another place. So there will be a genetic drift. Okay. Then next is what? Founder effect. This was given. So sometimes what happens is the change in the allelic frequency is so drastic that in the new sample of a population, the variants form a different species. So the original drifted population from which the variants arose will become the founder species, and this effect you call it as nothing but the founder effect. This effect is called as the founder effect. That is what it is given. Okay. So what they mean to say is founder effect. See, when there is a change in the allele frequency, okay, sometimes what happens, the change will be very, very drastic. It will be very more. So in that consequence, what happens is in the new in the new sample of population, what happens? The variants will form a different species. They will form a different species. So the original different population from which the variants will arouse, it will try to become what? A founder species. If it will try to become a founder species, means from this species again new variants will be formed. So this effect you call it as nothing but a founder effect. Okay. Then next, operation of natural selection on different traits. So we can say, so now we have seen what are the differences. That means whatever the Hardy-Weinberg law or whatever the Hardy-Weinberg principle states, okay, according to him, to some extent it may be true, but there are various factors, okay, which actually affect the Hardy-Weinberg law. Now, what we have seen like genetic frequency, okay, there will be a genetic drift because of the gene flow. Here they have given, see here, what are those? Gene migration, genetic drift, mutation, recombination, the natural selection, all these things are there. So when definitely, what do you say, when a section of population migrates from one place to another place, what happens? There, the genes will migrate from one population to another population, from one place to another population. Then this will lead to genetic drift. Then when it leads to genetic, definitely, what happens? The mutation will take place. When once the mutation takes place, what happens? Recombination phenomena will be there. And when once the recombination phenomena will take place, the natural selection process will take place. Means because of recombination, what happens? New forms will exist, and these new forms will exist, and it will lead to the natural selection. So that is how actually. So To some extent it may be okay. Hardy-Weinberg we may accept, but these factors actually will try to disapprove the Hardy-Weinberg principle. Okay. The next is what the operation of natural selection on different rates. So natural selection can also lead to stabilization. It can lead to directional changes, and it can also lead to disruption. This is actually the what do you say the views that are given by the scientists. So what they mean to say is, no doubt natural selection it will lead to natural selection, but natural selection also lead to stabilization. So when it leads to means in which more individuals acquire the mean character value. Directional changes, it occurs when more individuals try to acquire the value other than the mean character, and disruption is more individuals try acquire peripheral character value at both the ends of the distribution curve. So like this. So natural selection, operation of the natural selection, when you try to do it on different rates, it may lead to stabilization, it may lead to differential directional changes, and it also lead to the disruption. It may also lead to the disruption. So that is what actually. Okay. Now coming to, now we will see. So these are the different views that have been given. Now a brief account of evolution we will see now. We have seen what is evolution, how the life originated on this earth. Okay, first the non-like existing forms, later on the life, the living forms. Then various theories actually have been been proposed by various scientists to actually give the evidences of evolution. We have seen what are the various evidences of evolution, that is morphological, anatomical, paleontological, then embryological. Okay, one by one we have seen that. We have seen what is Darwin's theory of natural selection, what is Lamarckism. Okay, and then we have seen what is Hardy-Weinberg law and all these things. Okay, now a brief view of the evolution we will see. So now till now, approximately about 2,000 million years ago, the first forms of life actually appeared on Earth. Okay, the first forms of life appeared on Earth. They are saying they were all unicellular. They were all unicellular. Then certain cellular forms developed the ability to photosynthesize and thus release the oxygen. Then the atmosphere slowly became rich in oxygen. Then this in turn promoted the development and evolution of more aerobic forms of the organism. Then slowly what happened? The single cell organism started to form multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms. Then around 500 million years ago, invertebrates were actually formed. After invertebrates, the first fish evolved from invertebrates around 350 million years. They were all probably jawless. Then at around 320 million years, seaweeds and few plants evolved and existed. Then coelacanth, actually, it is a low fin fish which was discovered in South Africa, and it is believed to have evolved into the first amphibious organism that live both land and water. Then later on, these amphibians were the ancestors of the modern day frogs and salamanders. Then the amphibians slowly and gradually evolved into reptiles. Reptile eggs again do not dry up. Okay, so giant ferns, pteridophytes present on land, they fell and they got buried in the soil. So as a result, what happened? They started to form the coral deposits slowly. Then some of the reptiles retreated back into the water to evolve into fish-like reptiles. Okay, to evolve into fish-like reptiles. Then later on, the highest land reptiles were seen, and they were called as the dinosaurs. The largest dinosaur was seen was Tyrannosaurus, which was about 20 feet in height and had huge features. Then later on, about 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs suddenly underwent mass extinction and from the earth, and some of them actually evolved into the birds. Then the first mammals came into existence. They were small and shoe-like. They had small-sized fossils. Mammals evolved to become viviparous. Then this protected their unborn young inside the mother's body. Then pouched mammals came from Australia. They survived because of lack of competition from any other mammals, and this lack of protection was because of the result of the genetic drift. So like this, one by one, the mammals came. Okay. Now, okay, so that is how actually the different life forms have originated. Okay, so today, students, we have seen what is evolution, what are the, how actually the life existed on Earth before life, how the non-living things came into existence, the later on how the living forms have came into existence, what were the various theories regarding the existence of the life forms, who were the various scientists actually who has contributed to this theory, and what were their assumptions and what were their views. Okay. So with this today we will conclude. Okay, ma. Is it okay? Have you understood? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, now the time is up. Now we will try to conclude. Okay.
Ma'am, actually, I have a doubt that we have to pay second year fees now itself.
Now I don't have any idea, ma'am. You can talk me later. Okay. Okay. You can call me later. I'll find out and let you know.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.